So good morning, everyone. What a nice rain. Um, so again, we will start as usual. Let yourself relax. Both your body and mind. And feel the weight of your body on cushion, chair. And bring your attention to the breath. As you breathe in and out, observing it mindfully and being aware. The natural process of breathing in and out. And if you find your mind distract is running somewhere, you can always bring back your attention to the breath. Then we can try to have positive intentions for being here. For example, if we don't have the tools to deal with our different emotions, feelings, thoughts, that arises due to coming in contact with different situations, cause and conditions. If we don't have those tools, our life can be extremely miserable. Not knowing how to deal with them, totally overwhelming, devastating by those different negative feelings, thoughts, emotions. Not only we can feel so miserable and so overwhelmed, devastated, but when we are in such state of mind, we can also be cause of problem, harm to others. And we can make others' life also miserable. Not only our life miserable, but we make others' life miserable as well. Therefore, if we don't want to be miserable ourselves, if we don't want to make others miserable because of our situations, we must train and learn to develop different skills, different tools, different practice, meditations to deal with those different negative, disturbing emotions. Not only just learning about them, but also trying to apply, integrate, and practice as much as possible. And to be able to practice, integrate, we need to be reminded all the time. A lot of time we tend to forget when we need to apply. And for that purpose that we have come here together to listen and to engage in discussions, reflection, contemplations. So we can be reminded, hopefully inspired, encouraged to practice, to apply, to integrate what we have studied, what we learned into our everyday life. So instead of being miserable, that we can be more happy, And instead of making others' life miserable, we can contribute to make others' life happy. And may all this become cause and conditions to attain our highest potential, the fully awakened state. So we can achieve the ultimate happiness, as well as to be greatest help and benefit to each and every sentient beings. Okay.
Refuge in bodhicitta. I go for refuge in time enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Son. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soki chonamba chanchu bardu dagni kapsu chu dagi chonen kepe sonam Jola penchir sange druparsho sange chodan soki chonamba chanchu bardu dagni kapsu chi dagi chonen gepe sonam gi drola penchir sange druparsho.
이제 도전에 손은 어떤 제방배서 담배촌에 던져배 고담대라 차차. So you might be wondering what I'm reciting every day or before teachings. Yeah. I'm cursing you so you don't understand with a different language. I try to recite a verse by Nagarjuna that pay homage to the Buddha Shakyamuni, and with basically, I think it's from his precious garland. Where he said, I pay homage and prostrate to the Gautama, saying Buddha Shakyamuni, who showed that sublime Dharma through the view of dependent arising emptiness. Motivated by the greatest compassions. So basically that is what the verse says, what is one verse. And so, yeah, so that is what. So we have been discussing about dependent arisings, and within the dependent arisings, the 12 dependent arisings. And within that, we've kind of discussed about the first two, the ignorance, and mainly to ignoring the ignorance of the ultimate reality and ignorance of law of cause and effect, the karma. And due to those ignorance, then we engage in certain actions. And by engaging in that certain actions, then we create certain karmic potential or karmic seed. So second is the karma, actions, formations, whatever different translations. And last week we kind of discussed quite a bit on karma, some of the misunderstanding of karma, possible misunderstanding of karma. When we talk about experiencing result of any karmic potential, we are not talking about one cause. We are talking due to multiple causes and multiple conditions, then it produces certain result, and we kind of discuss about that. And here, specifically when we talk about dual dependent link, we are talking about very specific karma, not all karma. And last week, I discussed about especially what they call throwing karma and completion karma. There are two kinds of karma. Sometimes it is translated as throwing karma, sometimes it is translated as projecting karma. But whatever, and that is very specific karma that produce a samsaric rebirth. Very specific karma. Not all the karma are throwing karma or projecting karma. So here we're mainly speaking mostly this kind of very strong karma, projecting or throwing karma, and it project or produce a samsara rebirth in the future, or it produce or it throw to have a samsara rebirth. So in such karma, as we mentioned last week, it has to be complete karma, because there are karma with not incomplete karmas and complete karma. Complete karma is with four conditions we spoke about last time. When all the four conditions have completed with one action, whether it's positive, negative, when those four conditions are completed within that actions, then that become complete karma, and such complete karma then can become the throwing karma or projection karma. Whereas completion karma does not produce a samsaric rebirth, but instead it produces the different experience within that rebirth. Whether it's a high rebirth or whether it's a low rebirth, once we have been thrown in that rebirth, that rebirth is being produced, within that then you can have many different pleasant and unpleasant experiences. And those different experiences are the result of completion karma. So there's throwing karma or throwing and completion karma. So we have to understand two different results it produces. One, it produces the rebirth. The others, the different experience within the rebirth. And of course, as in terms of rebirth, as Nagarjuna in his that explain, due to three kind of karma or formations, due to the meritorious karma, unmeritorious karma, unimmovable karma, then it can produce three different rebirth within the samsara. Due to unmeritorious karma, then, one of the lower rebirth is produced. Due to the meritorious karma, then within the samsara, such as human rebirth, high rebirth is produced. Immovable karma, then it produces, high rebirth of God realms. So again, also we can understand karma. Sometimes when you think of karma, one of the things in one of the, again, lot of misconceptions. A lot of time people, when they think karma, they always relate with negative. Do you get it? There's almost like kind of when you talk about karma, almost like fearful, almost like something bad, something negative. That is again, I think, I guess one of the reasons that could be in the most of the teachings when they talk about karma, a lot of times they discuss more negative karma than the positive karma. And the reason is to avoid creating such unwholesome negative actions. And for that purpose, I think maybe they focus more on explaining about the negative karma, the consequences of such negative karma. And I think maybe sometimes in our mind, somehow it's ingrained somehow when you think karma, something more negative. But again, karma can be positive karma, negative karma, neutral karma. Again, it doesn't have to be always negative and positive. There's negative karma, there's positive karma, there's neutral karma. Just like our actions, can be positive, neutral, or negative. And due to different, if it's positive karma, then it's a positive result. In terms of positive throwing karma, then the result is a higher rebirth. And due to the positive completion karma, then within the higher rebirth, all the pleasant experiences, all the positive things, good things, happy things that manifest within your life, is the result of your completion karma together with many other conditions, immediate conditions, coming together. And if we look in our life, first of all, due to our previous positive karma, we have this human rebirth. Due to our positive karma, we have met the Dharma. Due to positive karma, we have such condition to practice the Dharma. Not everyone has such condition. Even they have interest in Dharma, they don't have the space. They don't have the Sangha. They don't have the support of teachers or teacher their being where they can have access. So, we must have created a lot of positive karma to be able to have all these conditions in this life. It's due to our positive karma that our mind is open. That not totally closed. That our mind was open to explore. And through that being mind open, we're able to kind of open our heart to the Dharma too. You know? So have that openness, to have interest is because of positive karma, you know. And not only the openness, interest, but to be able to pursue the path also is positive karma. And not having too many obstacles to pursue our path is positive karma, you know. Most of our life, we have good health, in general speaking. There are times when we have problem with our health or challenge with our health. But sometimes what we get is, when we have challenge with our health because it's a result of negative karma, we feel I must be so bad. But what about all the good health you have? 60 years, 70 years, you have good health, and you might have bad health for 1 year, 2 years, or certain period. But we don't think, we just focus on negative karma, A lot of things, good things happen in our life, and one bad thing happens. And then we feel like, what kind of negative karma I must have done, how horrible I must have been, all kind of this. What about all the good things that happen to our life? All the positive that happen to our life? Aren't they a result of our positive karma? If the other is a result of negative karma, isn't those a result of our positive karma? Supported by immediate many causes and conditions? I think it's very important to really think that way too. Because I see a lot of students or peoples, when they have certain challenges, difficulties, and then because understanding or belief that is the result of negative karma, then they start to have negative thoughts and feeling about themselves and all of that. Because we only focus on just the negative side, negative karma, but positive, we have to also contemplate on the positive side as well. In that way, our mind becomes more balanced. And I think that is life, that is case not only from karmic point of view, everything in our life. We have to be aware of our shortcomings, our faults. So by knowing, by understanding, we can make effort to maybe improve it. At the same time, we cannot just focus on our shortcoming and negative. We also have positive things. We also have good things. We also have, good side, positive side. Also focusing on that. If you just focus on just a shortcoming, fault, negative side, then you will develop very negative image of yourself or negative feelings towards yourself that can lead into a dark space, because that is not who you are, that is only who we are. That is only one side of us. That is the not only side. We have both good side, bad side at this point, Of course, if you just focus on positive side, not negative side, then again, if you are not aware of your shortcoming, you will not try to improve it. So again, also just focus on just positive side of yourself also is not healthy. Because then if you don't see your own shortcoming, your own weakness, your own mistake, how can you improve? You are not going to do anything to change. You are not going to do anything to improve because you don't see that. So same with the when we think of karma. So yeah, and then there are certain times our immediate motivation doesn't have to be always either virtuous or non-virtuous. Sometimes it can just be neutral, sometimes just, and that will be neutral actions. And result is neutral experience, so that you experience neither pleasant, neither unpleasant, but more neutral experiences. So again, karma can be, there are three, positive karma, negative karma, neutral karma. And in terms of producing result, I think last week about it, there can be a karma, that result which you experience in this life, and then there are results which we experience in next life, and there are results which experience many after lifetimes. And again, one of the factors, one of the conditions is the stronger karma, whether it's positive, negative karma. In generally, it might not be always the case, but in general, then we experience a result of such karma more sooner. And I guess if you look also external world, also I think that is the same too, how it works. Stronger water runs over the rocks, it will cut it quickly. If we say not strong currency, but very gentle, small water, it will also cut over the time, but it will take more time. The result will be stronger, you will see the result quickly. When it is not so strong, weak, then it takes more time to see that result, complete result. So, I think that it doesn't only apply in the external world, that is also how it applies as. So that was, we talk about the karma. And then third, the next among the 12 link, the next is the link of consciousness. The third one. And within that, there is a causal and effect, causal consciousness, or and result consciousness. And third one, when we talk consciousness, we are talking about this causal consciousness. And I think some translator even translate not just consciousness, loaded consciousness. The car being loaded with things, because we are talking about a specific consciousness, specific time. So when you create a karma, okay, and here we are talking about especially throwing karma, projecting karma. The moment you create that actions, then you create that karmic seed of potential, and that karmic seed of potential imprint is immediately loaded in that consciousness, planted in that consciousness. Immediately planted or loaded in that consciousness. That moment of consciousness that has been planted or loaded with that imprint, predispositions, or the karmic potential, that consciousness is where this third one. Especially when talking about 12 link, of course, when we talk about consciousness, then within the Buddhist studies of knowledge, and within that, there is a condition phenomena or impermanent phenomena. Within that, then there's three categories of such things or phenomena. Material things, matters. Material things matters, and then consciousness is a different, non-physical, non-matter. And then, condition or impermanent phenomena, which is neither of them. And that is the beings, the persons, the beings. Because being is not physical matter, nor is the consciousness. When you say a being, sentient beings is neither consciousness, neither a physical matter. But still, it is a impermanent phenomena, is still a conditioned phenomena. So it is a impermanent, which is neither both physical matter nor consciousness. So basically, those three kind of divisions, among the phenomena or objects. And consciousness is described as an experiential entity, So it is not a physical, but or matter. So therefore, it is not even the wave or activities of the brain, from Buddhist point of view, of course, the consciousness in the body has a lot of connections, Our state of body can affect the mind can affect the body, either way. Because they have very strong interconnection, interrelated, interdependent. So your health can affect your mind. On the other hand, your mind can affect your health as well. But they are two different. One is physical, one is non-physical. And then within the consciousness, there's sense consciousness and mental consciousness. And in terms of the sense consciousness, then the five sense consciousness, eye sense consciousness, ear sense consciousness, nose sense consciousness, tongue sense consciousness, and bodily sense consciousness. Those are five sense consciousness, and then mental consciousness. And when we talk about this particular consciousness that carry the karmic seed potential, we're talking about this mental consciousness. The sense consciousness are, you can say, unstable. Okay? When we die, the sense consciousness cease. Also, when we are in deep sleep, sense consciousness also kind of cease in moment. When you're deep sleep, or when someone get kind of, let's say, fainted in coma or something, also the sense consciousness doesn't function or it ceases, but the mental consciousness is always there. If the mental consciousness is no more there, then you are dead. So therefore, the consciousness that carry the karmic seed or imprint is the mental consciousness, and is that mental consciousness, and the mental consciousness that carry the karmic seed by nature is a kind of neutral. Is neither virtuous, is neither non-virtuous. It's kind of neutral. So it can be, affected by the virtues. It can be affected by the non-virtuous karmic seed or imprint. But such consciousness that carries by itself is kind of neutral, and it carrying. Yeah, as we mentioned before, and it is. If it's not karmic seed, sometimes there are a lot of things it's hard to explain in our life. Many things that happen in our life. Sometimes you meet someone for the first time, you don't know that person, they don't know their history the first time. You connect just like that, as though you have known, not only from one side, sometimes it's from both sides. And sometimes you don't know a person, somehow you have a strange feeling, as though somehow you kind of dislike or doesn't like. You don't know why. You don't know person. You have not met before. You have not heard about them. There's something from the past. That is all the kind of explanations. Yeah, I have had certain experience like that, Not only me, the other person as well. First time we met and probably they have heard about me, no, but I didn't, just came to pick me up because I was visiting a center, In first meeting, we just become like a silly child, both of us, kind of. Normally, I don't do that, even someone I know, but there was something, it's like that someone you know so well and comfortable and without any kind of, wall, something. And it was kind of immediate kind of response from both, and it also happened with other, another friends, he's not even a Buddhist, So anyway, so yeah, I was talking about the consciousness and the different type of consciousness. And within the mental consciousness, of course, there are many different type of mental consciousness. Okay, we don't need to go detail in all different type of mental consciousness, but and it is that mental consciousness that carry the karmic seed. And in terms of the 12 link, the third one is the moment when that karmic imprint or predispositions has been planted or imprinted, loaded in that moment. So that is the. And then, due to the consciousness, the link of consciousness, and it produced the fourth one, name and form. That is how it is. It's called name and form. And the name and form refer to the moment when we have the conceptions, when the mind, the consciousness enters the new life, and when the conceptions, in terms of, let's say, a human child in the mother's womb, the moment the consciousness enter, the moment consciousness enter, during that conceptions, then the form, physical form, at that moment is just like the eggs and sperm, of the parent. So that is that, and then form, name and form. The name here refer to the psychology, the mind, so it refers to the four other aggregates. So the physical form is physical aggregates, and then name is the four other aggregate. The aggregate of feeling, the aggregate of discriminating mind, the aggregate of compositional factors, and the aggregate of consciousness. So it is basically the moment, in that very moment, when you have conceptions, then there is and again, from the very birth, there is connections between the body and the mind. They are being developed and produced together at the same time. So that is name here, name and form. When we in 12 link, when we say name and form, the name refers to the four other aggregates, and the form is physical aggregates. The form aggregates. So that is, and then that produce, due to that conceptions and having developed the name and the form, name and form is produced. Then the next, the fifth one is the sense faculties or sense power, sense sources, sense spheres. I guess different translation, but sense faculties. So then slowly, slowly within the mother's womb, the child slowly kind of started to develop, and slowly, the six sense faculty started to develop. When we talk about six sense faculty, we are not talking about the organ themselves, okay? It's eye organ. We are not talking about the eye organ itself, But within the eye organ, there's a very subtle matters, very subtle matters, that allow us to see shape, colors, form, the physical forms, Mm. So the sense faculties. So and then same with hearing, there's a subtle, very fine, very subtle matter, and that allow or that functions or that allow you to be able to hear the sound, to be able to smell, to be able to taste. Because you can have tongue, but if your sense faculty of taste or tongue is gone, you cannot taste, even you have the tongue. Even you are the eyeball, the eye organ, you will not be able to see it. So it is not just the organ themselves, but there is a subtle matter within organ that allow you to see, hear, smell, taste, and feel. And those are developed over the time, slowly, And then, once that sixth sense are produced and developed, then that calls for the next link, the sixth link, the contact, So the six senses are from the moment after the name and form, when the six sense faculties started to develop, until the contact in between that. Those are the six senses, and then it produced contact. And contact is again not physical contact necessarily; it's a mental contact. Your eye consciousness, when your eye consciousness contact with the physical objects, the contact is not physical to physical. It's from consciousness, mental to the physical. So the contact with the objects come through the six senses. If you don't have those six senses, then your consciousness is unable to contact the objects. And if you cannot contact the objects, whether it's physical or internal objects, then you cannot experience the objects. So in order to experience the objects of the consciousness, one should get in contact with the objects. And in order to get in contact with the objects, you need the six senses. So all contact come through the six senses. And when there is a damage, when there is damage to the six senses, any of the senses, then the consciousness is unable to contact the object and unable to perceive or experience the objects. So it is like it's like a telescope. The six senses are the telescope that in order to watch something far distant, small objects that your naked eye cannot see it. So through that help of the sense telescope, then your eye is able to see the support of that, whatever objects far distant or small objects that you are trying to look at the microscope, Without that microscope or telescope, you cannot experience and see that objects with your eyes. Similarly, the sense conscious, mental conscious, without depending on the microscope or telescope of the six senses or six sense faculties or six sense power, they cannot come in contact with the object and they cannot experience and perceive the objects. And so that is the role the six sense faculty play, for the consciousness to perceive and to be able to experience the objects, through that, by relying on that. And the contact comes when three things come together. When the objects, the sense faculty, and the consciousness. When those three come together, then they are able to contact, the consciousness is able to contact the objects. In order to contact the objects, in order to get in touch with the objects, another way of contact is getting in touch with the objects. In order to get in touch with the objects, there need to be the objects, there need to be the subject, the consciousness, and then in between, like the microscope, telescope, the sense faculties. So the object has always been there, maybe always there, maybe might not be the right word, but the object is already there before a child even have the sense faculty fully developed. The objects, the mother is there, the father is there, the world is there, so objects is there. The consciousness is there because during the conception, name and the form is already developed, produced. So the name, the four aggregates, the consciousness there. But still at that point, the consciousness is unable to get in touch, in contact the object because the sense faculty is not developed. But when one sense faculty is developed, then through the sense faculty, by relying on the sense faculty, by depending on sense faculty, with the help of the sense faculty, then the consciousness is able to come in contact with the objects. And by coming in contact with the object, by getting in touch with the object, then it is able to perceive and experience the objects. So that is why, let's say in the child, over the time when it develops sense faculties, and then started to, through that sense faculties, then it is able to, their consciousness is able to come in contact with the objects, perceive the objects, and then that is when the child started to respond, react. Sometimes maybe kicking the mom, whatever that is happening, because it's experiencing something. It's experiencing pleasant, unpleasant. Maybe sometimes it might be kicking because it's excited. Maybe sometimes it might be kicking because maybe, is experiencing some pain or trying to communicate, whatever. I can't say for sure when they kick, for what purpose they kick, and with what. But definitely they are feeling some things, and so they are experiencing some things, so their consciousness is able to experience, perceive the objects through their sense faculties, coming into contact, and through that it perceives. So after the sense is sense faculty, then is the contact. So contact is, that allow or that makes the consciousness to get in touch with the objects through the senses, sense faculties, through the sense faculties. It's like, someone is there, you are here, the phone is here, but if you want to contact the persons, then you have to dial it. Pick up the phone and dial it. Picking up and dialing is like the contact, The other is the object. You are like the consciousness. The phone is like the sense faculties. Now you pick up and dial the number, and then you get in contact with the other person. You get in touch with other persons. Able to communicate, able to contact, able to get in touch. So that's the contact. And once you get contact with the objects, then different, whether you perceive correctly, whether you perceive mistakenly, and all different perceptions, different state of minds, different thoughts, all of them would arise on the basis of coming in contact with the objects. Coming in contact with objects, and due to many other conditions, coming in contact with one of the condition, but also due to other conditions, and how we perceive the objects, how we experience the objects, then it could be different perception, it could be different experience, and so forth, due to many other factors, due to many other conditions. But if you don't come into contact with the objects, then you cannot perceive, you cannot experience the objects. So therefore, in Buddha's teachings, one of the Buddha's teachings, of course, is all about overcoming the disturbing emotions. Okay, whole Buddha's teachings, all Buddha's teaching and practice is meditation tool method, how to reduce, minimize, and destroy the disturbing emotions that are the root of our suffering and which are root of for us to create suffering to others, So it's all that. And then there are different methods Buddha taught how to minimize, reduce, and overcome them on different levels. Through different practices, If you can cultivate the wisdom realizing the ultimate truth, emptiness, then that wisdom realizing the emptiness directly can act as a direct antidote to the delusions and cut the delusion completely from the very root. But someone who doesn't have that tool at the moment, even though that is the biggest kind of tool, that is the kind of, you can say, the most powerful tools, most powerful antidote to overcome the delusions and to destroy them. But at the moment, many does not have access to that, even they try to. So then, for those who are not there, you can still reduce and minimize the delusion through the practice of karma abiding shamatha. When your mind is able to completely concentrate on breath or any objects, the object can be anything. It could be breath, it could be your mind, it could be a Buddha's image, whatever. But when you have this ability to quiet all your mind, all your thoughts, then delusion does not arise. Delusion are those thoughts, conceptions. So it doesn't give the opportunity for, as long as you're in that deep meditation, it doesn't give those negative feeling, disturbing feeling to arise, manifest one way. So in that way, you already reduce, not giving so much opportunity them to manifest and arise. And even if they have manifested, because you are in not that deep meditation and then you encounter some conditions. But when you go down, when you go in that meditation, whatever anger, whatever jealousy, whatever feeling of strong desire, you have this ability to sink all of them. Before it's boiling with those negative emotions. Now with that meditation, it's like pulling a cold water, and all the boiling and the water become very, very gentle, smooth. So that is, this method is not as powerful and strong as the previous method of the wisdom, because this one cannot destroy by itself, cannot destroy the delusions from the very root of it. It only kind of, when it is arising, it makes you to kind of sing it, or when you are in that state, it does not allow it to manifest and disturb. It doesn't arises. But definitely, even we have that tool, it will be great. When you are disturbed, after one mind, you go in that deep meditation, all that feeling, all that thoughts, agitation, just kind of become quiet, peaceful. You don't feel any more of that strong. And for some, they don't even have access to that, to develop that kind of meditation. such as powerful single-pointed meditations, shamatha or karma abiding, it doesn't come so easily. It's quite a lot of practice, effort, time to reach that point. So for those who doesn't have that kind of access, then Buddha, for very beginner who doesn't have access to the tool of karma abiding and the wisdom, then he taught, the practice how to deal with the emotion by dealing with the object that give rise to the negative emotions. That is the practice of moral discipline, the precepts, the vows. And that is how to keep distant from objects that give rise to the delusions. For the beginner, that is not come in contact with the object that give rise to the delusions. If there is an object, the moment you come in contact, you cannot resist, your desire arises, and you don't have a tool to deal with that desire. Neither you have that karma abiding wisdom, so you cannot have any tool to deal. It's better to keep away, distant, not come in contact with that object. Keep it distant. Same, if you come in the object with something that agitates your mind, that upset your mind, that make you frustrated, angry, and that. If you don't have other tools, it's better to keep distant instead of allowing so much anger, and other negative emotion arising, not knowing how to control it, not having the tools to deal with it, and being totally overwhelmed and devastated. That is better to keep distant from that. And that is for the beginner, when you're just training, when you don't have all these tools, it's the best to keep distant from coming in contact with the objects that give rise to the delusions. And again, it absolutely makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. People who have problem with addictions, whatever those addictions, unless you have built up tools where you can, even when the object that you used to be addicted to, where you can resist it. If you don't at the very beginning, you have to keep away from that object. Otherwise, you relapse again and again, and you will not be, And of course, then you try to keep distant from any objects. The objects, whether it's the drug, whether it's the alcohol, whether it's the food, whatever that your addictions is. When you're trying to recover, when you are trying to recover from that. Of course, after some time, when you have built up, a lot of will or other skills, power, then even you are exposed to that, you will not relapse because you have the tools. But for many of them, at the very beginning, when they don't have that tool, if they are exposed to the objects, if they come in contact that object, they will relapse because they don't have tool again, Same way. And so that I'm talking about the contact. Of course, we are talking about here mainly in terms of 12 link. We are talking about the contact, consciousness to the objects, and how coming in contact give rise to different thoughts, different feelings, different perceptions, different state of minds, So yeah, but so coming into contact, just trying to bring that teaching, even in terms of our practice, dealing with the disturbing emotions, there are many different ways to deal with that, and if you don't have those tools, it's better to keep distant, not come in contact. It's much more safe for yourself, safe for others. If you have something to protect yourself from being burned by the fire, then you can, with that kind of suit or whatever you are wearing, you can go in the fire to help or to do something. But if you don't have that, better to keep distant and not to burn yourself instead of being able to help others. You burn yourself, and sometimes not only you burn yourself, you might put others also in the dangers. So in such situations, but when you have that kind of something to protect yourself, then of course, then, going there and doing whatever need to be done, saving and whatever, same with the tools. When you have those tools, then coming in contact with those objects, the more you face object of delusions, the better it is because you have more tools to deal with them. It doesn't affect you negatively. But if you don't have tools, then it's more skillful and it's better to not to burn yourself and burn others as well. Because if I don't have tool, I will be disturbed by that. If I'm disturbed by that, not only I'm disturbed, then I will respond and react with that kind of disturbing mind. And when I respond and react with that kind of disturbing mind, then not only it affects me, it affects the other person as well. And I can make other person more upset, more angry, more disturbed, more agitated, Yeah. Okay, so that's all. I can take a couple of questions if there is. Yes.
David Camito has a question.
Geshe, you spoke about 3 kinds of phenomena: objects, consciousness, and beings. Can you talk a little bit more about being and what you meant by that?
Okay. Beings mean like the sentient beings, okay? Human beings, animals, God, goddess, demigod, all of those beings. Human being is not the body, physical matter, neither is consciousness. But it is still impermanent or conditioned phenomena. Human being changes or, changes from good to bad, bad to good, good to better, bad to worse. It changes in so many different ways. So it's definitely impermanent, it's definitely conditions, objects, phenomena. But it's not a physical matter because human being is not their body. Neither is consciousness. Human being is not their mind. So therefore, it's a different phenomena. It's impermanent phenomena. That is neither the consciousness and neither the body. It is on the basis of the human body and the human mind. Then human being is merely imputed as a human being on the basis of the human mind and the human body, but is neither the body itself, neither is the mind itself.
So what you mean here is that this third phenomena is the realm of imputations.
No, it is not. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe how you take. Of course, everything is merely imputed. So definitely that is merely imputed. But what is human beings, or even animals, even a god, is neither their body. I'm not my body, neither I'm my mind. But there is me as a human being, as a Geshe Sherab, as a monk. There is a being which is impermanent, but which is not the mind, not that. So it is a different phenomena. It's a different phenomena.
But David is the mere imputation on the five skandhas. So this mere imputation is what you're talking about in this particular case.
I'm not even going there. I think that one goes much more further, and that what is describing if there is a phenomena or some objects that is impermanent, but which is neither physical matter or neither consciousness. That is what it's just saying. There is another, let's say, another phenomena, another object, which nature impermanent, conditional, but which is neither consciousness, neither physical matter.
But that describes imputations.
Yeah. That is merely imputation, but of course, even the physical matter is merely imputations. Even the consciousness is merely imputation. So that is why it is not the third phenomenon, because it's merely imputations. That is what I'm trying to say. Is merely imputed. There's no doubt about that. But it is not that third phenomena, because it's merely imputed. Because even this iPad is merely imputed, but it is not that phenomena. It's a physical matter. My consciousness is merely imputed, but it is not that the third categories of that phenomena, because it's a consciousness. So, yeah. Anyone?
I have a question. Oh. Geshe.
So, okay, there is three, and then,
Maybe this one is just a yes or a no. Maybe this question is just a yes or a no. Geshe, when we're referring to the third link of consciousness, the causal consciousness and the resultant consciousness, does the resultant consciousness refer to more like generation completion stage, where taking the result of the path, more of Vajra?
No.
No? Okay. You could just say no. That's okay. We can move on.
that you are bringing from the tantric practice is nothing to do with that. It's here the resultant consciousness is when you take a new rebirth, conception, when you have the conceptions, the consciousness at that time, the fourth, that is the resultant consciousness. Third one is the cause. And in this life, I created some karma, and that karmic imprint is planted in my consciousness. That moment, the consciousness is that consciousness. Then when I die and when I take a rebirth, and then the mind at that time is the resultant consciousness that we are talking about. Yes, please.
This question might be just a yes or no, which is fine. When you're practicing the purification practice of Vajrasattva, for example, does it influence the two types of karma that you've been talking about?
Neither it impacts nor it doesn't impact.
That's over my head.
I'm just being silly. Yes, absolutely. As far as I cannot say with my direct experience, but I can say with what all the great masters has explained, mentioned, including Buddha, Nagarjuna, and all others. Definitely they say it can be purified. When we do the purification, whether it's a Vasada purification or any other form of purifications, there are many different forms of purification. Whatever purification you do, if you do correctly, sincerely and correctly and powerfully, then it can be purified, completely purified. And if our practice is not strong enough, even though it might not be completely purified completely, but it can reduce the level of the intensity of the result. For example, maybe let's say a plant has a potential to produce 100 branches, 1,000 fruit, okay? And then you do something to the seed, it damages the seed a little bit, some potentials. So it still produces the branches, but instead of 100, maybe it might grow 50. Instead of thousands of fruit, maybe it might give less. Or if you damage more to that, then instead of producing 100 fruit, it might just produce 10. So same way, even though we might have created a negative karma to experience, whether it's positive or negative, in purification is negative. Very strong negative karma to experience, let's say, a negative karma to have a health issue for the rest of my life. But through purifications, if my purification is really, really strong and sincere and proper, correctly done, I can purify completely where I don't have to experience any result of that. But sometimes practice might not be strong enough and proper and sincere. Then still, by doing with some level, then instead of a whole life, I might have health issue for, let's say, 10 years or 5 years. And if in some cases, if it's not strong as that, then maybe I might have health issue for 1 year. Or it could be, I could have just 1 week or just 1 day. So there can be many different ways how it is purified depending on individual practice, how strong and how conditions and done properly and all of that, many conditions, yeah.
Yes. Karen has a very short question.
I'm curious about the realm of mathematics, where it fits in terms of the physical, the consciousness, the third case, because mathematics is an interesting study because it's imputed aspects manufactured abstractly purely by the mind, but it also, by its very execution, makes real things happen, rocket trajectories, landing, many things. So where does that fit into all of this?
I have no answer to that. Really?
Okay.
I cannot answer because I don't know all this mathematics, so I cannot compare those two things.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Geshe.
You have to ask someone who is mathematicians and who also know Dharma, who can compare and who can. So for me to say something that I don't know about those math, I don't think it will be right and inaccurate.
Yes, we need a question online. We have a question online.
Okay, we can. I can take.
Thank you, Michael.
It says, the question is, are the 12 links the same for an animal rebirth? And actually, I would like to know if it's the same for all beings in all of the realms.
Yes. Yeah, 12 link is applied to the all 6 realms. Any rebirth in any of the 6 realms within the samsara, any samsara rebirth come through the 12 link. Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Dedications from Master Shantideva. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with the mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms, the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you.